Robots Radio. Games, lore, stories, community. Just press play. This show is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/ElderScrollsLorecast.
Robots Radio presents The Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
Welcome to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, a place where the Elder Scrolls community can come together to discuss the boundaries of our knowledge about the universe of the Elder Scrolls. All right, adventurers, welcome back. This is your host, Tom, or Robots, here with another episode of the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. And with me, as usual these days, is Lotus of Doom. Welcome back, Lotus.
Hello.
Hello. How are things in the world of ESO for you? I hear you've been doing some trials.
Good. We were doing some, we've been doing some trials and achievement farming earlier. Got our no deaths and speed runs of the new dungeons out of the way.
Nice.
And
nice.
We get to be here as my dog decides that this is the moment she wants to maul a stuffed taco.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect
Stuffed taco. My dog has a stuffed pizza. He loves his pizza.
Yep.
I posted a picture of that earlier on Twitter. So
apologize for the squeaks.
It happens. This is what happens when you work out of your house or, extra hobby work / out of your house. Whatever
work,
this is that we're doing, quote unquote work, right? Fun work. So we are here live as usual, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/robotsradio with our wonderful chat who is in here dealing with some of the ups and downs of the stream quitting. Please, if it goes down again, please let me know. Send me a bunch of notifications. But we've got everything working right now, and we are back to discuss more details about the Reachmen and what's going on with them. There are some of the broader details that we discussed last time, which tend to be a little bit more well known, but we're going into some of the lesser known details here and maybe some of the background for what might be happening or might be motivating some of the events in the new expansion. So we'll see where this goes. So why don't we just go ahead and dive right in?
This is where you get off. Come with me.
So I've considered putting notifications out using BuddyBot saying famous quotes from the games. So he can say things like,
"This is where you get off. Come with me."
But I don't know if anybody would get the jokes. But if you see one of those pop up on Twitter, then let me know if you think it's funny or not. It might just be terrible.
Am I actually creeping you out?
Yeah. Abbott and Arnie voice, says Crystal in the chat. So before we get into this real quick, please stay for the end of the episode. There is big news this week with the acquisition or the announcements of the intended acquisition of Microsoft and Bethesda and ZeniMax. And we're going to be discussing that a little bit on the second half of the show. But to dive into the Reachmen, let's go back a ways, because the Reachmen are connected or descended from a diverse group of peoples. You can say that they came from some of the peoples of Daggerfall, maybe that area, the Bretons, and then they have some Nordic blood. They're kind of more of a tribe than a strict bloodline of people. They are also related to a group called the Keptu, and you probably haven't heard this word before because the Keptu are not discussed very much in the lore. They're not a group of people who are still around in the world and referenced like the Nords or the Bretons. So let's just dig into this. The Keptu or Ketpu, 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 is the full name. They're also called the Men of Ket or simply Keptu, were an ancient race of men native to central Hammerfell and the hinterlands bordering Sirod, such as the Ural Mountains. They lived in Tamriel during the Merithic and early First Eras. This is why you haven't really heard much about them, alongside many of the other Nedic peoples. So that raises a question here. We know that the Mannish races are all descended either of the Nedic people or of the Yakuden people. So
Right.
were they originally Nedic people who broke off early and splintered into this other group? I don't know. We don't
Yeah, it's
really
hard to
know for
say.
sure. It's hard to say. Chances are they were, because they arrived before the Yakudans, and supposedly there were no Manish people in the area. So they must have been Needs on some level. It goes on, it says, though unpolished and barbaric, the Keptu were far from primitive and were among the early pre-Alessian civilizations to discover technologies for refining stone. Their culture was at one point almost entirely oral, though they had developed glyphs and amulets inscribed with markings. So this leads me to believe that there was very little elven influence in the culture.
Yeah, it does not seem that way whatsoever.
Right. Like the elves were writers. They wrote everything down. They were very cultured. This is a group that most likely lived remotely and separate from the elvish groups around them, who were bringing a high elven culture with them everywhere they went as they kind of flourished across Tamriel. So they also were connected to Hircine, which, as we know from the last episode, connects to the Reachmen. With the aid of Hircine, they constructed the Bloodroot Forge atop a large source of Nirncrux in a secluded Ural Valley, a massive and powerful magical forge rivaling the architectural feats of the Aelids and the Dwemer. So they must have gotten a lot of help from Hircine with this Bloodroot Forge, because we're going from like a very primitive group to creating something on the scale of the Aelids or the Dwemer.
Which that I guess from my usual tie-in to game, that is a dungeon from quite a few years back now in ESO, and it was originally considered. I mean, that for a long time was like a hardcore. If you had the hard mode in there, you were a tank that was well versed in what you were doing, because that for a very long time was considered no joke of a dungeon. So, and it's funny because just as we've been talking about the Reach. That and the other one that we will actually be making reference to later on in a second, they both came with Horns of the Reach, which is the name for that dungeon pack expansion that came out. So,
yeah. So this is kind of the background behind all of that, which leads to some of the other things that are going on in ESO. And if you remember Nirncrux from the episode about the Celestials, that was part of this section in the ESO world and some of the lore that came out with that as well. This goes on and says, it, meaning the Bloodroot Forge, harnessed the power of lava flows to smelt the tribe's ore and heat their metals, though also served a more occult purpose as a temple to worship dark gods and practice dangerous rites of blood magic with the use of iron, Nirncrux, and lava. Now, the one of the skins that you can get in Elder Scrolls Online makes you look like one of these lava-skinned individuals. I forget the name of the skin. You know what I'm talking about, though, right? It has like the cracks of lava all over it.
Yes. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not great on the cosmetic side of things. I have it. I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember the name offhand.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it, but I believe you actually get it from. What the heck? Which one do you get it from? Because I remember you get Forge Breaker, the title from doing the hard mode in Bloodroot Forge, obviously, hence the name. And when you're in Falkreath Hold, which is, adjoining Reach region, you get a Nordic kind of paint job as a skin. But I'm trying to remember exactly what the name of the. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the
Blood Forged skin or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He'll look it up while I talk. Somebody's yelling at their car stereo right now, going, "It's this, you dummies!
It's this skin. It's my favorite one.
It's my favorite one. All my characters use it." It goes on and says, the Aelids enslaved many Keptu around the Niben during the early First Era before their empire fell, which makes sense. The Aelids moved in, they enslaved all the Manish races that they possibly could, because that was their business. That's how they did things. Due to the usage of need as a catch-all term for Merithic era humans, the Keptu are inconsistently described as being needs and as a separate race from the needs. Pelena Whitestrake brought Morehouse to the Nita Keeler Zothas, the clever cutting man, who had a Keptu name intended to the wounds he received after a battle with the Aliads. How the Keptu people faded from prominence is unclear, but most Nedic cultures were already in decline by the time of the regatta. By the time the regatta set foot in Volenfell, circa First Era 808. So that's the coming of the Yakutans. It is suggested that they had ancient cultural interchange with the clans of the Reach, who adopted parts of their cultural styles. By the Second Era, ancient Keptu sites had become ruins and were shunned by the Nords as places of evil. In the Second Era 582, a group of Reachmen descended from the Keptu formed the Dreadhorn clan with their Minotaur allies after their leader, Garrig Bullblood, met with the Minotaur Damihaus the Bloodhorned, who recognized his Keptu amulet. Together they used blood magic to reawaken the Bloodroot Forge, meddling with the long-slumbering smithies to infuse themselves with Nirncrux. The Dreadhorn clan used this power to put the Nordic city of Falkreath under siege, but this was lifted after Damihaus fell in battle. This is what some of what Lotus is referring to here.
Yep, this would be with the other dungeon, which is Falkreath Hold, where the Reachmen and Damihaus are sieging the actual city of Falkreath. Also, for the sake of not driving everybody completely insane, it is called Bloodforged. You are correct.
Bloodforged.
That
All right.
is literally the name of it.
It is Bloodforged. Yep. Okay.
It is actually called Bloodforged. It was a Crown Store item that you could buy. Yep. And it's funny in the picture that you look up for it. It's two characters coming out of the Nirncrux in Bloodroot Forge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. So, it's one of those things that, like, I remember looking at this back when it was first out, whenever that was, and thinking, like, that's a really crazy looking skin. Why would anybody have skin that looks like that? But it makes sense because all of these things tie into the lore, and they were using the Bloodforge and this blood magic in order to infuse their bodies with potent powers and dark magics in order to make them more powerful. And of course, you have some sort of, it's a good reason to have a badass looking skin, right? in a video game.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to look like a normal human when this is done. You're going to look pretty awesome. So you get this cool looking lava skin out of it.
You'll look Bloodforged as it was.
You'll look Bloodforged. Yeah. Yeah. So it also talks here about Damihaus the Bloody Horned. He was the Minotaur warlord who forged the alliance with the Dreadhorn clan. He is referenced also in styles and things that you can pick up in Elder Scrolls Online. And what I think is so interesting about him is that you have this group of people forging a pact with Minotaurs who are considered beastmen, but they're not beast folk the way that something like the Argonians or the Khajiit are. They're not given that same level of, like, society or respect. Even though some cultures don't give them respect, but in general, a Khajiit in a foreign land is going to be given more respect than something like a Minotaur.
They would be considered more barbaric and just
dangerous.
Bestial.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say more bestial than the other beast races, I guess you'd put it.
Yeah, which makes it really interesting. Like, where is the line between beast race and beast?
Right. Like, how sentient do you need to be in this world for it to cross over into, like, okay, well, now you're not just a roving monster, quote unquote, in game, but you're actually, like, interactable as, like, another sentient being.
I brought this up when we talked about things like goblins and some of these other races. And I find this to be, I mean, we deal with this in our own world, right? People who are racist, and, Lotus and I do not agree in any way with racism. It needs to be stamped out.
No.
But people of racist mindset typically justify it by claiming that people who aren't their race are like beasts. They're like animals. Which is terrible.
That's the thing, is when you're in this fantasy world, I mean, there's obviously crossover where some people obviously would be unable to separate fantasy and reality, but, like, they can blur the line so much between, like, there are cat people, there are lizard people, there are bull people, like, but then like, okay, there's these goblin things that are kind of orcs, which aren't a real thing, period. Whereas in life, it's people are people. Like, there's
people
not
are
a
people.
lot of gray area.
No.
So
we have way more in common genetically with anybody else. Just because you look different doesn't mean that you're not 99.9% the same genetically. Yeah.
Correct. Where it's like this, at least in this universe, it seems like the cultures try to base the similarities and differences a little more strongly on those situations, which you can be opposed to as well if you want. And
Sure.
But it's just, there's the definite line between the fantasy and reality of this game with, talking lizard people who can talk to trees as well. It's like, are the trees sentient in game? Like,
the trees have their own. Should we respect the trees and their wishes, even if we can't communicate with them unless we are already drinking their sap from childhood? How does this?
Correct. Yeah.
How does this work?
Exactly.
Right.
This world is nothing but gray area. The gray maybe is the best way to put this series.
Yes, very, very much. So I guess it makes sense that if you are somebody who is a high elf and you consider like the mannish races to be beasts, then something like a minotaur is so far down the spectrum from you as a high elf who, according to your own philosophy, descended from the gods and should return there, and everyone else is garbage. Then you can kind of see where that goes. But from an objective standpoint, is there some level of sentience that means that something is a person and something isn't a person? Is a bull isn't a person, it's an animal, but the sentience to have a society and be a minotaur, does that mean you're a person and you're just the kind of person people just don't get along with because you're a violent type of person, and so most people just don't like you very much? Like, how does that work? Where is the boundary?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Not to mention, not to get on a huge tangent, but then you've got races like the Bosmer that can, even though it's frowned upon, but like,
yes,
they have the capacity to shapeshift. Do they become not classified as like? There's so many
right
weird.
If they're on the wild hunts, are they?
Yeah, exactly.
Are they no longer people because they are completely consumed with their animal side? A werewolf, is a werewolf not a person when it's in a werewolf form?
Right.
A vampire is basically a Daedra corruption of a regular race. Is that not a person? What about a Dremora? Is a Dremora a person? This question is really interesting because you can take it in so many directions. And and like Lotus says, it's gray. We don't know, and the world hasn't decided what's right or wrong. Every culture has their own standards. It's
also kind of changed throughout the series. The more you look at it, orcs became a playable race. I believe it was actually in the goblins episode that you brought up.
Yeah,
specifically orcs. With me playing through Arena, orcs are just things that go blurg blurg and run at you and try to smash you. And now it's like a full functioning society within the series that has like their own religion and their own, tribes and cities and everything like that. And they've been written so much deeper than when they started, when it was like, well, of course you can't be an orc. It's just this thing that runs at you.
It's just an evil monster thing.
Yeah, it's an evil monster.
Well, no, they're people and they just have a different society than you. You got to deal with that. That's how different peoples are. Different peoples have different societies. And if you don't come from that society, it will look foreign. End of story. That's just the way societies work.
How it works.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on these kinds of concepts and ideas. You guys are welcome to jump in the Discord, the Robots Radio Discord, or just shoot us notes on Twitter. These are some interesting conceptions. I would love to have this expanded out in future games and be able to be a Minotaur or a Dremora, or who knows? Maybe the way the world is changing, we get opportunities for things that we haven't been able to be before because, like Lotus says, previous games you couldn't be an orc, but now you can. Right. Maybe you could be a goblin. Why not? They have a society. They have a language. They're peoples. They're just a little bit different. So Lotus, take us into the section here about the Longhouse Emperors, because there is a period of time during the Reachmen. Let's get back to the Reachmen. We know that they descended from these different groups, that they have a lot of influence from the Keptu, or at least certain tribes ascribe their lineage to the Keptu. There's a period of time here right before the events of Elder Scrolls Online called the Longhouse Emperors. And some people may not be familiar with that. They may know the Alessian Empire, the Tiber Septim's Empire, these other empires. But the Longhorn Emperors were a very short period of time. What was that all about?
Okay, so as a little preface to with my main focus recently being so much ESO, it's kind of interesting how close this part leads into the most current Elder Scrolls game, not in the timeline, but in functional content being released, so to speak.
Right. Elder Scrolls Online. Yeah.
Elder Scrolls Online, so the Longhouse Emperors were a dynasty of Reachmen who seized the Ruby Throne and ruled the Empire of Cyrodiil for several decades during the Interregnum, which the Interregnum is where Elder Scrolls Online takes place, or all that we've experienced so far.
It's the time period where there is no solid emperor. Everybody's vying for control of Cyrodiil.
Right. Which makes up the whole multiplayer portion of everything. Regarded as eccentric at best and utterly alien at worst by Cyrodiil's populace, the Longhouse Emperor's reign began with the Empire's conquest by Durok. I guess it's
Durkarok. I guess
I think you're right. I think it's Durkarok. There's like an extra set of syllables, so I think Durkarok will be what the pronunciation will go with.
Sure.
The Black Drake, which is a very cool title. Sometime in the early 6th century of the Second Era, in an effort to solidify his tenuous claim to the throne, Durkarok married Varaxia Tharn, which is another very prominent name throughout the entire series of the prominent Tharn family in Nibene. Durkarok eventually met his end while leading an army of Reachmen in an invasion of High Rock in the Second Era 541. After raiding several cities, Durkarok's army was broken outside Daggerfall, and the Longhouse Emperor himself was slain by King Emmerich of Cumberland. At the time, he wasn't technically King Emmerich, but that leads you right into the alliance of the Daggerfall Covenant. He would be the leader of it. Morikar the Middling, Durkarok's son, succeeded him. During Morikar. Oh, these names are
these names are so hard.
Yeah, we'll go with I think it's Morikar.
Yeah.
Reign, he mustered his legions to subjugate Western Skyrim, but remained in the Imperial City rather than lead the invasion as his father would have done. The decision likely spared his life, as his forces were humiliatingly routed in a single battle by the army of the High King by High King Svagrim. But he was consequently lambasted as a coward by Western Skyrim bards,
which is great.
If you don't show up to the fight and then like everybody loses,
right,
you're kind of the only one living to blame. So
yeah, and we've met Svargrim in Elder Scrolls Online, right?
Yes, he's a prominent player.
He's a prominent player. He's a boastful Nord. He's big and he's bold. So of course you know that he commanded his bards to write songs to humiliate
if you're going to lose to anybody, Svagrim is not the guy you're going to want to lose to.
No, he's going to rub it in your face.
Yes. By the Second Era, 566, Durkarok's grandson Leovic had inherited the Ruby Throne, following suit with his grandfather by marrying a Tharn, Clivia. Leovic's reign was initially only marked by the emperor's peculiar behaviors, which the Cyrodiilic nobility blamed on his Reachman upbringing. Eventually, however, Leovic crossed the line when he legalized Daedra worship, which you can imagine how that would go, allegedly at the behest of his corrupt advisors, and consequently drew the ire of many nobles who had once been counted among his supporters. One of these erstwhile supporters, Duke Varen Aquilarius of Coral, marshaled his armies at the Colovian estates and then led them against Leovic in open rebellion from the Second Era 576 to the Second Era 577. So longer than some of the previous encounters, but still not much of a battle. In the end, Leovic was killed by Varen, and in the Imperial Throne Room, and the era of the Longhouse Emperors came to a close. We'll get into more about this, but all of these names, Leavitt less so, Varen, another very important player for the Elder Scrolls Online game itself.
Played through Elder Scrolls Online, through the main story, the original main story, not like you get it and you started in Morrowind, so you start with the Morrowind story, or you start in the Somerset story. The original story is all about Varen and his attempt to become a legitimate dragonborn in order to become a legitimate emperor, and how it goes sideways. It's basically
does not go as planned.
It does not go as planned. That's the whole story. We won't ruin it for you. I'm sure at some point we'll talk about more details if that makes sense.
And if you haven't, play that storyline. It's the Soulburst quest line. It's it's still one of my favorite storylines in the series. But under their rule, Cyrodiil controlled land all the way up to the Hrothgarian Mountains at that point. So
let's recap this real quick. So basically, you have a very short dynasty of 3 generations of Reachmen who took control of the Ruby Throne and ruled Cyrodiil just for 3 generations. Yes. This is a very, very short dynasty. And they made that, being that they were Reachmen, they naturally worshipped Daedra, and they did these sort of things that, lo and behold, Cyrodiilians were resilient against, because the original people who captured and enslaved them were the Alessian Empire rebelled against were the Aelids, and the Aelids were known Daedra worshippers who did terrible things under Daedra worship. So you have a situation here where it makes sense. You have a bunch of Reachmen coming to power, and they're going, all right, we're changing things. We're going to start worshiping Daedra again. And everyone else is going, oh, no, we're not. We know where that goes. Nope.
Yeah. Not back to the days of gut gardens. Thank you.
No gut and gardens for us. So sure enough, Varen Aquilarius, who was a duke at the time, stands up and does one of the good things that he ends up doing, and basically takes back control of Cyrodiil and ushers in what would have been a wonderful new era of Cyrodiilian rule, except for the fact that he decided to try to become a dragonborn in order to legitimate his place on the throne, and that throws everything into turmoil. And here we are with 3 major factions all warring over control of the empire. So that's basically where we're at. And all of this comes to a head because there are Reachmen who were in control of things and kind of screwed everyone over, and also weren't very good at battling and sending people out to battle. That didn't seem very good either.
Yeah, ruling did not seem their strong point the way that conquering was at first, but then after the initial conquering, it seemed like they kind of
didn't know how.
Floundered their way around because they didn't know what to do once they had established where they were. It was like they had no direction other than, I guess we attack now. And then none of it was obviously well thought out, as they didn't win anything like ever.
Well, it makes sense because they were not used to ruling an empire.
No, there's
a lot
of power is a very different situation than being the oppressed and fighting your oppressor.
Right. Also, they don't come from a culture that is probably as educated in reading and writing and drafting documents for things like, land rights and proclaiming war on other cultures. There's a lot of stuff that goes into organizing an empire and managing it. That's why somebody like Abner Tharn, speaking of the Tharns, comes across as so, snotty sometimes, is because he knows about all these things that when he comes across these more barbaric cultures, they don't seem to know these things. And they're like, he legitimately is smarter about certain things. So he acts like it, which turns him into kind of a douche. But that's just kind of how that stuff works. It's also why the High Elves have that same opinion of some of the other races, is that they have this society, and the society has all these rules and the way things work. And they feel like they're aware of that, and other people aren't. So it makes them feel like they're better, which of course is debatable. So at the end of all this, there's the Soul Burst. What's the Soul Burst about? And then what happens with the clans?
So the Soul Burst is another reference to the main quest line, I guess would be the easiest way to put it. But The soul burst it's the second era, 578 or 579. I'm guessing that's, as with most things during the interregnum, hard facts, as if they're already not loose enough in the series. Hard facts are even harder to come by when the Imperial libraries were burned. Was a massive explosion of arcane energy, which sundered the veil between Nirn and Oblivion and disrupted the connection of souls, the souls of the denizens of Nirn and their mortal hosts. The Elder Scrolls themselves named this event after it was set into motion.
So this has completely to do with some of the events in the main story, and Manny Marco trying to claim power, and Molag Bal trying to pull Tamriel, trying to pull Nirn into Oblivion.
Into his Cold Harbor realm, which is, I assume, where a lot of this, sparked from, was his assault, as it was big enough to render questionably the whole thing into a dragon break, because there's so much plane ripping and time ripping and all of this happening during the soul burst.
Yeah. And so through all of this, guess who the remaining Reach clans align themselves with? Of course, Manny Marco, the Worm Cult. And so they use that as an opportunity to find more power, to try to take back what is theirs. And so now here we are in the events of the Elder Scrolls Online, and now in the events of, soon to be Markarth, to see how this continues to play out. So that's as far as we're going to go into that story, because that gets into some of the Greymoor spoilers, some of the events that the Reachmen are involved with in Greymoor, and some of the events that they are involved with, as we are going to see in Markarth. So, so that's as far as we get there. It's hard to discuss
much more of that without starting to spoil both the main story as well as then blending it into all of the current expansions, which are, I can understand. I mean, if you haven't played the original stories at this point, I guess spoilers are kind of on the table, but Greymoor hasn't even concluded yet. So you don't want to.
Yeah, we're not going to spoil that one yet.
Deep into the Dark Heart of Skyrim yet.
But you can tell from this that there's definitely motivation here, because you have Reachmen who are Daedra worshippers and have worshipped Molag Bal in the past as one of the Daedra that they worship. They most likely will worship Hircine, but some of the tribes have worshipped Molag Bal, and they are different and have been talked down to basically by all of these different groups: the Nords, the Cyrodiilians, the Bretons. They've had war with all of them. At some point, they took over the Ruby Throne and were kicked out. So talk about a group that has a vendetta, and it makes sense that they're trying to align themselves with these forces that they traditionally have aligned themselves with. They have a lot of motivation for trying to do what they can in order to take back power. So this is the foundation for this storyline. This is it right here.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, that's very conclusive, I think. I think we kind of...
Yeah, that was the extra bit we needed to addendum on to the previous show to just kind of fill in the blanks.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely there was a place of, this is who they are and what's going on. But then there was this whole section, which is like, okay, this is who they are in their motivation for what's going on now and what we're coming to learn more about in the recent expansion. So we wanted to kind of lay it out.
Even though it was followed by massive failure, it was one of the few major successes the Reachmen have actually had at the same time. I mean, granted, it ended pretty unceremoniously, but outside of this, it's not a lot of huge victories on their side. So this is pretty impactful to their overall existence.
I mean, you got to give them some credit. Like, they're still sticking around in the Fourth Era.
Yeah, they are. And to be fair, depending upon where the timeline goes after the events of Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, who knows? Maybe there will be more to them, and maybe they've had more victories. Like, who's to say they don't win in that era and actually take some land back for themselves?
And they're originally from the Hammerfell area, which may be a location that we get to visit in the next major Elder Scrolls. So
one that I definitely think is the most likely situation, actually.
Yeah, so we might be seeing more Reachmen in that that furthering continuation of the story, along with the roots of some other cultures that we haven't been able to visit yet. So exciting stuff. All right. Well, let's move into the middle of the show, and then we're going to talk about the Microsoft Bethesda ZeniMax acquisition. Here we go.
The skies are marked with numberless sparks, each a fire, and every one a sign.
Have you ever wanted to learn more about geography without sitting through a snoozio lecture? Geography Arcade is a weekly podcast all about your favorite video games and their geographic lessons, inspirations, and even some minor analysis. Some may say analysis, boo! Well, we're gonna learn and have fun while we talk about Pokemon, Elder Scrolls, and much more. Come join the adventure at Geography Arcade on your favorite podcatcher and YouTube.
So thank you for tuning in again, everybody. And thank you to all of our patrons. We have some new patrons. I will be calling them out 2 episodes from now, because next week is our patron chat episode, where we're going to get together and we're going to have a chat about something. We haven't decided yet. We haven't come up with a topic. I usually try to let the patrons decide what the topic will be. Lotus, do you want to join us next week for that? You're welcome to.
I think I should be available.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm pretty sure I'm available. Unless I'm forgetting something, I will be there as well.
Okay. Yeah. Same time and place, Thursday night, 10 p.m/7 p.m. So if you are a tier 4 patron, or you are not a tier 4 patron but would like to be, you have time to upgrade in order to join us for that episode. Again, I don't know exactly what topic we're going to discuss, but patrons, please shoot some topics around on the Discord and let's come up with something. And if you guys can't come up with something, then I can always put something together. Like we did a quiz show a few times. We could do something like fun like that. That's always fun too. So that's coming up. And in other news, I wanted to show this off. I haven't talked about our merch in a while. Lotus of Doom is the one that I originally had this conversation with for the shirt I'm wearing today. Check this out. And if you're you can see it. So if you're in the video, you can see the Why Not Hermaeus Mora shirt that I'm wearing. That's another way to support the show. You can buy merch. If you go to the robotsradio.net site, you can see merch for the show.
Had I known, I would have worn mine.
Oh yeah, I should have let you know.
I've got one too.
Yeah, I pulled it out of the laundry today. I was like, yes, I'm definitely wearing this, and I should probably show people it. It looks like Zoidberg as Hermaeus Mora, or Hermaeus Mora as Zoidberg, saying, "Why not Hermaeus Mora?" Because that's kind of what he looked like in the really early games. So, in other news, or in other ways that you can help support the show, you can check out our sponsors, and we talked about them last week, and we're going to talk about them again. Audiobooks.com. You should definitely check out the Elder Scrolls books and get them for free. Audiobooks, you get 3 audiobooks just for clicking the link in the show notes. And if you can't find the link, or for some reason your player just doesn't show the show notes, just write me a note on Discord. We actually had somebody, Lotus, who reached out to me and was like, hey, I can't seem to get the show notes to open on my player. Can I have a link? And I'm pretty sure they went and signed up and got themselves some of the Elder Scrolls books. There you go. So yeah,
nice,
easy peasy.
Love those books.
Yeah, awesome books, and it's a really easy way to help support the show, because we get a little bit back for everyone who signs up for some free books, and no commitment on your side. You can always just check out 2 or 3 books, get them, listen to them, and then you don't have to continue subscribing if you don't want to. So super easy to do. So go check those out. You can just look up Elder Scrolls on the audiobooks.com site, but use our link to get the 3 free books. So you'll see some 2 free book deals out there. We got the 3 one for you. So go check that out. All right, let's move to the end of the show.
Yes, you're entirely brilliant. Conquering madness and all that. Blah, 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 blah.
So, Lotus, we have some news this week about the potential acquisition. It isn't all the way finished yet, but the intent to acquire ZeniMax, which includes Bethesda, it includes Elder Scrolls and Fallout and Doom and all these other games that they make from Microsoft. And I've talked about this at length on the Fallout Hub. If you guys don't listen to the Fallout Hub and you want to know more about this, look up the most recent episode of the Fallout Hub on whatever podcatcher you're using. Most of the time, the show is specifically about Fallout, but this last one was about this acquisition. What are your thoughts on this? I'm very curious.
So, since we are kind of all like one giant podcast family, it seems to be, I had a pretty lengthy discussion. I was actually invited to be a guest. I was on the Unofficial Elder Scrolls podcast this week as well. And we got pretty in depth with it. So, my thought on this definitely, I'm not going to lie, this came out of left field. And I did make the joke that I am now selfishly tethered to the history of Bethesda forever, because this took place on my birthday.
Oh, I'm like, where is this going?
Nope. So my birthday marks the point where Microsoft officially owns Bethesda.
Oh man, that's funny. Well, happy birthday, I guess.
Thank you. Yeah, that was good. So it's just kind of funny that I was like, hey, my favorite series are now like part of the thing related to this weird. Okay, that's a weird twist, but that was not what I expected to wake up to. I was definitely under the impression with, if you look at, I mean, there's industry trends leading towards subscription services as a sustainable model and stuff like that. From the business end of things, I definitely had gotten the feeling that they were steering in a not so spiky form of income, so to speak, and have a sustainable model. Now, that's very appealing to investors, and they have had a couple very large things go in their direction. The Oculus thing with Facebook, where they actually won that. They've branched out into a couple other things. That Orion streaming service code that they were working on, I haven't really heard much since then. Obviously, ESO has a subscription. Fallout 76 has dabbled with a lot of different styles of keeping people engaged with their games. And this was all backed on the huge success of obviously Skyrim and then Fallout 4 as well.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to go public as a company and go publicly traded.
That very well could have been a thing. Like,
yeah, but that was where I thought they were going. And one of the things I have liked about them is that the fact that they are, a private company, so they aren't necessarily at the whim of investors who have no concept of what a video game is, which is a big problem in many regards, where you have companies like EA, where there are people who are so divorced from any idea of what video games have to do with anything other than a check that is coming to them.
Right.
So they make these just very rash, really aggressive, not consumer friendly things to milk an IP dry and then just, okay, good, we're out, sell our stock, peace, I'm done.
Yeah.
That doesn't
it's like a
happen.
Scorched earth policy.
Very much so.
Just,
that is not a thing that's ever really been with Bethesda, because the board of directors they've been there for a long time. The environment, I've heard nothing but great things working at that. I mean, and it's obviously not just words. Todd Howard's been there for 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and after releasing a game like Oblivion and the success of that, he could have gotten a huge pay raise and gone and worked for somebody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like the people that I'm friendly with from ZeniMax online studios, which is not ZeniMax Media. Those are separate. They're confusing. There's a lot of, because the same way that there's Bethesda Game Studios and Bethesda Publishing.
Right.
The naming's a little rough, guys. But
yes.
Luckily, they're connected, so it's not like they're different companies. But so many of them have recently been posting like, "Oh, it's my 10th year," and I was like, one, you don't see that often in business.
Oh, yeah.
Two, you definitely don't see that in the gaming industry. That is unusual.
Right.
So I thought that the direction might be to go public. And then they didn't. They got acquired instead, which I was shocked.
For $7.5 billion.
That is crazy.
That is crazy. The Marvel acquisition was $4.5 billion, I believe.
Yes, it's essentially 2 Star Warses.
Yeah, this is like the Disney.
Not quite, but like, yeah.
All of
but
holy moly.
Or 3 and change Minecrafts, that's which is another Microsoft property.
Right.
So
when are we getting Death Claws in Minecraft?
I mean, I do have a Fallout mod for Minecraft.
Or Daedric Lords in Minecraft. Can you imagine going through a portal and ending up in a Daedric realm in Minecraft?
But it is, oh my God, it's craziness. Like those were insane numbers being thrown around. But Microsoft now has more first party studios than Sony, which has always been their big thing that everybody rips on them for. Which brings us, of course, to the next point, I suppose, of what does that mean going forward?
Right. Well, so let's pause for a second. I think you're absolutely on the right track here. And I think that it all has to do with getting these big selling games that get a lot of buzz and have huge fan bases on Microsoft Game Pass before, or not at all, before they get on any of the other game services.
Correct.
That is it. I would be very surprised if they don't release Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6 for PlayStation. Those things are going to come out. They'll put a disc out. They'll put a digital download. You'll be able to get it on these other platforms. But Microsoft knows that the Netflix of gaming is where things are going. And if they can keep these things on their platform, or at least only on their platform first, and then they get pushed out of the other places, then more people will sign up for their platform. And once you end up on one of those platforms, chances are you're going to stick with it. They know if they get someone to pay for a month, that person is likely to stay subscribed, even in the months that they don't actually play any of the games on the Game Pass, because we're lazy and we don't think about it. And I mean, think about how many months you've probably subscribed to Netflix and haven't watched anything on Netflix.
The entire basis of gym memberships in the United States.
Right. The membership model works because people forget, or they just don't think enough about that $10 subscription in order to make a change.
If you can get that initial hook into people, the odds that they will spend the time to go out of their way to then unsubscribe to said thing is very low.
Yes.
The real trick, though, is getting that initial hook. This was announced the day before the new Xbox's pre-orders go on sale, which, what are the odds?
No, that was very intentional. Yeah.
What are the odds? So that was clearly, a thing that was designed to really, I mean, as if they needed to sell. The new generation of consoles will sell out repeatedly at the start anyways, but then it's in the long run. However, this evened the field quite a bit in software, and Microsoft is a software company above being a hardware company.
And Sony is the opposite, by the way.
Yes,
Sony is traditionally the opposite. That's why Sony has always tried to compete on the way the consoles perform. Like you go back to the PlayStation 3, they created their own cores with AI so that they could stick multiple cores together, and they had this whole architecture that was very different than a regular PC for the PS3 because they were trying to outpace Microsoft when it came to the hardware. They've always
Not the
been
greatest results.
right, and the results were whatever. But that's always been their attempt, and you can tell from the software side that their software has always taken a little bit longer to flesh out the things that Microsoft has done well on the software side. So there's always been this kind of dichotomy between the two companies.
So that's, and to what you said, I absolutely think that their mainstay mega titles, Fallout, The Elder Scrolls, Doom, those three specifically, I think will stay cross-platform. They may have a timed exclusivity, like maybe 6 months or something, if Microsoft really wants to strong-arm them, but I'll actually be surprised if they even do that. I feel like...
Yeah, I'm expecting it's going to be more like release bonuses.
Right. Well, the thing is, if you're on a Microsoft subscription-based, which is Game Pass, your options are get a Game Pass and play this game for $15 for a month. That's it. Or buy it on another platform
for
well, then it's $70.
Yeah, it's now $70.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's cheaper if you just want to try it. Well, maybe I'll just sub.
Mhm.
And it pulls people in that direction.
Yep.
Those games are too monumentally huge they would be cutting off their own hand just for the sake of preventing Sony from getting it. That's obviously not what they're doing.
Right.
They didn't do it with Minecraft. They've been putting stuff out on the Switch. They are not above playing ball because they have adopted this publisher mentality where it's like, we'll take a cut. Also, not only do we take a cut of the sales on your platform, thanks for the free advertising as they boot up the PlayStation and it says Microsoft Game Studios right in the middle of it. It's like,
yeah.
You are advertising your competitor and you can't do anything about it. So that's really now the things that they might keep as exclusives. Starfield's another one where it's an unknown entity, which I believe, I forget the exact Todd Howard quote that I recently heard, where there's a lot of hype for a game that nobody's seen anything of.
Yes. Right.
So there is that too, which I think will be open, but I think smaller products, Prey, what is it? Maybe not Quake. Quake's been on a downward interest level, as of recently, but Quake was always a big thing as well. Dishonored, stuff like that. Those might be small enough that they Wolfenstein. Those could maybe be on. Well, okay, this will just be Xbox only or something like that. But when you have the mega games that are selling 30 million plus, it's like, no, it's not cost effective anymore to not just take the cut of so many sales elsewhere.
I agree. Yeah, I think I very much expect that to be the case. What do you think about somebody like Bethesda having more resources now that there's more money behind it? Okay,
so my pipe dream will continue now that it was originally dashed when the new consoles were announced and they said, hey, these are totally free upgrades to the next console.
I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
And they were like, as long as you stay in the console family. And I was like, no, please let me bring my PlayStation save to PC. Now Microsoft has a huge networking infrastructure that they can share with them. So some of the problems that have been going on behind the scenes with that, maybe Microsoft can dump a dump truck full of money to fix. The other benefit, which sounds weird as a quote unquote benefit, is owning these IPs. They have the potential to force Sony to play nice, which Sony has repeatedly shown they don't want to. But it happened with Fortnite.
Yeah.
So this is a big enough acquisition where they could be like, look, we're going to start taking things away from you if you don't just cooperate with letting things play with each other. Like, it's fine. You can still have these things, but let them have the ability to talk to each other. 76 is another potential example. So I'll be very curious to see if something comes about as that, because, oh my Lord, what I wouldn't give for cross save. I don't even need cross play because the add-on's a whole different piece. But
wouldn't it be smart? Go with me here. Wouldn't it be smart? They implement cross-play in order to pull people from PlayStation onto Xboxes and PC through Game Pass. ESO is on Game Pass, right?
It is. It's been on
you
Game
already
Pass
get on Game Pass. You go, oh, Starfield's coming out. I'm going to get on Game Pass. Oh, they have Elder Scrolls Online here too. Oh, and they have cross. I can just load up my account. Oh, I guess I could just play it here now. And then all of a sudden you're not playing it on PlayStation anymore.
So the other thing about that, which is something that the only reference point for this great cross save system that I have, where there initially wasn't crossplay and then there was, because a lot of new games, Fortnite and stuff like that, they kind of have had crossplay in the background idea for a long time. Destiny 2 did not originally. I don't still play Destiny, so I can't speak, but I have plenty of friends who did, and I played a lot of Destiny 1 and a decent amount of Destiny 2. But they factored it in and it became a thing. They make money on multiple. You don't own all of your DLC wherever you go. You own your file wherever you go. So if you want to play on PC, you have to buy the DLC again.
Yeah.
If you want to play on Xbox, you got to buy it again. I'm still fine with that feature. And then that's a way to give a cut to whichever system it's on. So there are ways that, if you want to play on Sony, okay, fine. That's great. You'd need to buy the DLC if you wanted to play on that. But to your point, if somebody wants to come to Xbox or they want to come to PC, people like to jump around and play with different groups of friends. Well, you'd need to buy it on all of them then. Yeah. And that would mean Microsoft gets a little cut of all of it.
Or you have to subscribe in order to get access to the free DLC from the subscription.
Correct. Which again,
you're maintaining
Microsoft
a subscription. Yeah. It all works out for their benefit.
Yes. So high hopes that this will, from the networking side of things, benefit all of us that play these types of games, because that's the highest hopes I have. And then further down the line, we'll see, hopefully they dump some extra money at them. And I don't like being negative, but okay, let's update that engine. If we're going to have Elder Scrolls 6, please let's not have the Morrowind engine have anything to do with it anymore. Yeah. Creation has done great things for us.
Todd Howard's talked about it, and he even addressed this, yesterday, and said that
I believe it was
this jump in the engine, the updates they've made to this is the biggest that they've ever made.
Yes.
Equivalent to the jump from Morrowind to Oblivion, which was significant. When you put those two things next to each other at the time, they were very different.
Yes. And the I am not a tech whiz by any means. I mean, I know the basics of all of this stuff, and I've done minimal programming. An engine is not just this is the thing, and we need a new one, just throw this one in the trash. An engine is built out of component parts of how it reads code. So it's fine to have, the basis for it, and that's what you do. You change stuff. I mean, Fallout 76, sorry, this is a pretty decent tangent, sorry. But Fallout 76 has the Quake engine duct taped on for the multiplayer aspect. When I learned that, I was like, that's blowing my mind that was their multiplayer. It's but we've got this creation engine thing, and we'll just attach this onto and it's crazy to just think that it's an engine is the sum of its parts.
Yes.
So having a little bit there is fine, but hopefully this greatest engine overhaul, as Crystal put in chat, is really, really noticeable, and they're fixing some of these long-standing problems that the engine has had from it being so outdated at this point.
Yeah, and I bring this up on the Fallout Hub. At what point, it's the question about the ship. At what point do you replace enough of the wood timbers of the ship to the point where it's no longer the same ship? Right.
Yeah,
so
exactly. That's also
if it's maybe they've had the mast of the ship in place since Morrowind, and that's causing a lot of the typical problems we've had with the system. Well, finally replace the mast. Let's get a new mast on there and make sure that it works well with all the other parts that were designed only 3 years ago, and maybe that solves the problem, but we don't know.
Yes, and who knows what we will get going forward with some of that information. Will id Tech have anything to do with Halo? Who knows what this will lead, but them sharing tech will be a very interesting thing to see.
Yeah, I hope that they can pull from these other parties. This is something else I brought up on the Fallout Hub was one of the things I was excited about with the acquisition of id by Bethesda was the fact that id designed game engines and those kinds of things, and maybe that team has been working with the part of Bethesda that does game engines. So I don't know, but that would mean that they've been there for a number of years now, maybe working behind the scenes.
Look at how much better the gunplay got in Fallout. They even mentioned that it has directly been involved with the gunplay, and it shows. Try playing Fallout 3 after playing, as much as people like ripping on Fallout 76, play Fallout 76 and then go back and try to use the gunplay in Fallout 3. It is a different beast altogether.
Very much so. Very much so. And the gunplay works. I've been playing a lot of 76 lately. The gunplay, if you're doing the PvE stuff, the gunplay is fine. It's totally fine. If you've got a good connection. If the connection derps out, then you try to shoot something, it doesn't take damage. But it's an online game. That happens, right? But for the most part, it's been great. The one place I have difficulty with 76 is in the like the PvE nuclear winter mode. In that mode, I don't feel like I'm as accurate as I should be, but I don't know if that's just me not getting used to the weapons or not.
Yeah, I actually don't mind it. I've had pretty decent luck. It's oddly one of my favorite battle royales. I don't really like battle royale very much as a game type. Too random.
Yeah.
But I actually like theirs. I feel it's very fitting.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've covered this. We've also been struggling with some other some other connection issues and things.
I think the real takeaway here is Starfield will just use Microsoft Flight Simulator's global map technology, and it will just map the whole universe.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. Oh man, I can't wait for that. That would be phenomenal.
No? Right? Take that, No Man's Sky. No.
Yeah, or Star Citizen. This is what you get, Star Citizen, with your millions of dollars of funding. You're like, nope, we've got Microsoft now. Screw you guys. All right. Well, sounds like we're coming to the end, guys. Thank you for tuning in again, and thank you, chat, for being here with us as well. One other thing before we go, I wanted to let people know that starting next week after our patron episode, any of the shows that I'm doing, so that's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights, I have shows each of these nights. This one's on Thursday. I will be doing a hangout session afterwards. It's kind of like an office hours. Now, that might just mean I do like I normally do, and I turn on a game and I play, and you guys can hang out, and we can do some stream stuff and just chat and have fun. But if you guys have very specific questions about either podcasting and content creation, which I do a lot of, and I run a network of podcasts, or some of the lore and some of the stuff that we've talked about on the show, you're welcome to stay afterwards after we've concluded the episode. And I will do at least, 20, 30 minutes of office hours to kind of hang out and talk with you guys about stuff. Because I know that there are a lot of people out there who listen to these shows who would love to get into creating some of their own content, whether it's podcasts or YouTube videos or streaming or something like that. So I'd love to help you guys out. So feel free to hang out next time, starting next week, any of the shows. I'll be here during office hours. Professor Robots is available. Lotus, do you have anything cool going on that we can talk about?
Yeah, so we announced as a podcast / stream over at Tales of Tamriel, which is the other podcast that I am part of. Every year I do Extra Life, and I had mentioned that I would probably have something more to describe as we got closer to the event. So if you happen to be around October 17th, that entire weekend, pretty much, me, Arcaneer, and Hyperpixie will be relaying a stream for 48 hours nonstop.
2 days. 48 hours.
All weekend. Of the 17th of October.
This is like Dungeon Fest.
Yes, and all of the money raised during the event will be going to the Boston Children's Hospitals to provide medical care to children who can't afford it themselves or families who can't afford the medical treatment they need. We'll have more details as we get closer on incentives we'll be doing. We have lots of giveaways. Huge shout out to Zenimax and specifically Gina Bruno, who got back to me. We have game codes to give away, crown packs, torch bugs. I have physical collector's coins from the events that no longer happen because we're not allowed to have fun anymore. Yep,
they're cool too. They're solid. They're like this big.
Yep. So we've got physical stuff. We've got digital stuff. There'll be lots of giveaways for the event. And hopefully we can raise some good money for the Boston Children's Hospitals.
Awesome. Well, good luck with that. I'll definitely be tuning in.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Lotus always gets himself into some sort of wacky situation on those, especially once he's been up for like 20 hours and it's like, oh, what is even happening?
Once I get delirious, it gets bad.
yeah, it's good times. You guys should tune in and help support them. It's a good cause. I think that's it. You guys know how to get a hold of me. You guys check the show notes for all the stuff, all the details. Follow on Twitter. Check the Robots Radio YouTube channel for this episode. If you'd rather see our meat faces than listen to us on the audio platform, you're welcome to check us out there. That's where all the videos go after the live episode. And if you haven't made a live episode yet, we'd love to have you in chat, asking questions and kind of sharing in the fun. So that's what we got going on. Come join me sometime and come check out Lotus's stuff. We got lots of fun stuff for you guys. All right, Lotus, thanks again, buddy. It's time to head out.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Until next time, don't try to usurp Emperors of Tamriel because, that never ends up well. So stay safe out there. Talk to you guys later. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. All sounds and music are owned by Bethesda Softworks or ZeniMax Studios, and no copyright infringement is intended. If you have something you'd like to contribute to the show, please reach out to us at elderscrollslorecast@gmail.com or on Twitter @ESOLorecast. If you'd like to help support the show, check out the rewards you can get at patreon.com/elderscrollslorecast. I really appreciate you listening, and I'd love to hear from you soon. And thanks to our patrons for support, especially our Tier 5 patrons, including Noodle Al Dente.
You've been listening to a robot.
Ahoy there, ye landlubbers! Avast! My name is Captain Logan, and I'll be your guide out on the Sea of Thieves. If you love the idea of stealing treasure, cutting down cursed skeletons, fighting off krakens, and raiding forts filled to the brim with shinies, then Sea of Thieves is the game for you. Join me each week as I dive into the news and bring back the nuggets of information that any sailor worth their weight in salt would desire. You don't have to be a pirate legend to gain access to my podcast. Just search for Keelhauled, a Sea of Thieves podcast in your podcast app of choice, or head over to robotsradio.net or captainlogan.podbeam.com and get ready to set sail for adventure. Arr.
My name is Brian Burton. It's been 26 years since the bombs fell. And since I've left the vault, I've been trying to rebuild. This isn't the Appalachia that I remember. There's so much more to everything going on. And I promise to find the answer. So if you're out there, if you're listening, just hone in on these coordinates. Remember, there's a place for you at the end. Omega.
The Omega Broadcast Fallout Story is available on iTunes, Spotify, and many great podcasting sources.
Once upon a time, 27 years after the bombs fell, there were two people, a vault dweller and a California girl. They met, and sparks flew. That's when things got interesting. Once Upon a Wasteland is their story. Follow Elizabeth Kirby and Odessa Valdez as they pursue their happily ever after in the post-apocalyptic Appalachian wasteland of Fallout 76. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and many other podcasting platforms. Once Upon a Wasteland, a Fallout 76 love story, available now.